All right, the big seven here is the Sabbath. Nobody else had this. This seventh day of resting it's Israelite. It's Jewish, right? And what's going on? God draws the people out of work every week, right? So that they don't lose themselves in work. You don't get lost in the world. You don't get lost in, oh yeah, I got to make more money for myself and my family, right? You get some time to step back, to look back and see, how do I want to live? Does God just care about me, or does he care about the whole world? Do I just care about me, or do I care about these other people? Am I going to look out for this widow, orphan, stranger? Maybe I could be the widow, orphan, stranger, right? I mean, that's the real genius of the Torah. You know, where it says, listen, imagine, think about it. Not only could that be you, that was you. Right? That vulnerable person is you. Right? That was you before. That could be you again. So how are you going to treat yourself? We also have a cycle of 7 years. Every 7 years the slaves were freed. Debts were forgiven. It's this just society that was born out of the Exodus. It's restored. Right? Remember, every generation has to do it again, has to make a choice to live in that new society, in the New Jerusalem. Remember that you too were slaves in the land of Egypt. So don't oppress the debt slaves that you have amongst yourself, and set them free. Just like you were set free. Right? So remember, the Torah is not aimed at making a righteous individual. It's trying to make a righteous society. So the law of Deuteronomy, it proposes a system of individual laws that's supposed to present the stratification of the Israelite society into rich and poor, free and slave, right? And it realizes, like, this is the way societies tend to go. I mean, this is an issue people are talking about in the United States today. Wealth is starting to accumulate in the hands of a few people. The Israelites, they were hit to this. They knew what happened. Remember, they escaped from these systems where one guy owned everything. And so they had defenses in the law to stop that from happening. Like, for example, if you had a bad year farming, like, it encouraged other people to give you a loan. Right? Maybe you just had a bad crop or something, got hit by locusts or something. Encourages the other Israelites to give you a loan, an interest-free loan, right? So you can, take the hit for a while. But if that doesn't work, if things get rough, you have to work for someone else, right? You have to go work on someone else's farm instead of having your own farm, right? Then they're supposed to pay you every day so that you can feed your family every day, right? Don't withhold the wages of the day labor, it says. These people they got to eat. They don't have a lot of wealth stored up, right? Then, as unfortunately happened a lot in the ancient Near East, if your debt got to the point where you really couldn't, the only way you could, you were forced to sell yourself into slavery. If you owe someone so much money and you could not pay it back, what they would do is they take you on as a slave. They basically own you, right? But if that happens, which unfortunately did a lot, right? Every 7th year you had to set them free, right? And plus it says you're supposed to give them an ox so they can go farm again, right? There's also a thing called Jubilee year, where it's every 49 plus 1 years, right? 7 times 7 plus 1, right? Every 50 years. The land went back to the ancestral owners. So if you had lost, like your tribe had lost a lot of land, you got it back every 50 years. Again, it was to stop the land from all going into the hands of just a few people. It was to stop the oppressive monarchical systems that the Israelites had escaped from. to defend the rights of the individual farmer, right? The person that was going to work by the sweat of their brow, so to speak. Again, I think of my own ancestors come to this country, get a chance. They didn't get, you know, the greatest chance ever, right? I mean, I know my great grandfather started by selling fruit on the corner, and he was frequently roughed up because he was an immigrant, right? But then he had a chance to become a tailor, and then eventually had a chance to get into a business selling fruit at the market, right? And he did all right. He supported 12 kids. Right? You probably think about your own, you know, great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents. You know, what did they do? Did they have a chance, right? Was it hard? Yeah, probably. But did they get a chance to establish themselves? That's the same kind of thing that the Torah is concerned with. Are they maintaining a society of freedom, equality, trust in neighbor and self, and most importantly, God? Right? Because if there's poor people in Israel who are being oppressed, then you're not worshiping Yahweh, right? I desire mercy, not sacrifice. We see the Torah here is based on trust of neighbor, right? And so when you have a law, when you have a penalty for a law, it's never a punishment. No, it's never just purely punitive, right? Even eye for an eye, we hear that. Oh, that's harsh. What an eye for eye meant was that if you took something from someone, or if you damaged their property, then you had to give back the same amount as you damaged. So eye for an eye was usually, you know, if you actually like poke someone's eye out or something, you know, say accidentally on purpose, whatever, the cost would not be getting your eye poked out. The cost would be you'd have to pay a debt. You'd have to like pay a price to compensate them for the loss of an eye. So that would be determined, you know. And as you read these laws, you can see they're sometimes very technical because they're just trying to be fair, right? Like there's a different punishment for like if your ox gores someone, if it was in the habit of goring, then there's like a greater punishment, right? Because like then it's your fault. Like you knew that ox was crazy, you didn't tie it up. What are you doing, right? But everything is aimed at like giving compensation back to the person who's injured. It's like redistributive justice, right? You're going to try to make it right. And what does that do? That helps people live together. You know, if your neighbor wrongs you or something, you know, I'll go put him in prison. Well, that's not really helping them live together, is it? You know, but if they can do something to make up for it, now you can live together again, right? Now you maybe even be friends again, right? So as Lofing says, it creates community, the Torah. Did you know that was in the Old Testament? A lot of people think, oh, that love your neighbors in the New Testament. It's not in the Old Testament. Yeah, it's in the Old Testament. Look at it. So what about some of the purity laws? Some of these, again, very obscure. They have, you know, things about washing your hands, things about where, like, when you should, where you can sit, things about if you have a fungal infection or something. And not to mention all the dietary laws, right? Like you can't eat pork, you can't eat shellfish, all this stuff, right? And sometimes it just gets a little, people say, oh, that's a little bit much. Like, what does that matter, right? Like, what's washing your hands have to do with spiritual things? What's washing your hands have to do with God, right? Well, as Lofing puts it, you know, faith in God is faith in the ruler of all things. So everything, right, is part of that. right? It's not no, you can't just love God with your, say, oh, I love God in my heart, I love God with my mind, but then you let, things fall apart. You can't hate the body. You got to take care of the body, right? It's the way that God manifests the people of God in the world. You can't let the places you live fall apart. That's going to hurt people too. You can't let the environment be destroyed. That's going to hurt people too, right? So this all has to do with the new society, with trusting and caring for others. Even the seemingly most mundane laws in the Torah. Finally, the Torah's intention is to teach the Israelites to make distinctions. There's a lot of distinctions. You got to distinguish. Oh, okay. I can go to the temple now, but first I have to do this kind of ritual purification. I can eat this food, but not this food. Right? I can sit here, but not here. Right? There's a lot of distinctions to be made. Right? And Living points out that's exactly what that's exactly what the Jews needed to survive among the pagans. Right? To survive in the exile and diaspora. They need to make distinctions, right? And he has this great line, where distinctions are no longer made, the old God returns, right? If we don't make a distinction between, oh, wait a minute, doing this is actually going to hurt people, right? Doing this is actually going to lead to a more oppressive system in our society. Oh, wait a minute, right? Not taking care of the environment is going to hurt people in the most vulnerable areas of our planet and in future generations, right? If we don't make these distinctions, we're not being the people of God, right? So the Torah is the exercise in making those distinctions, which can view all the things of the world with the eyes of God. It allows us to do that, right? To distinguish what's right from wrong, and to put everything under the governance of the one God. Again, we know He's love. Right? So let's just ask, what is the loving thing to do in all situations? You can't say, oh, well, this isn't really a spiritual matter over here. This is just business. No, it's not. What is your business doing? How is it going to affect people? And that's why the church can't abandon the Torah, because that's what we do too, right? We're supposed to live the mission of Christ in the world. We're His body on earth, right? We're supposed to love others the way He loved us. We're supposed to bring glad tidings to the poor. So we live the Torah. It's like Jesus said, right? I did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. So we live it in the spirit of Jesus, the new thing that came into the world, right? The Torah was the new thing. It was the life that was different and better from life in Egypt. And Jesus is the new thing, right? He's the new Torah, right? So again, it's renewing. And it's something we all have to do. Every generation must make that choice. Do we want to live in Babylon? Or do we want to live in the New Jerusalem?